for most of my life. I had been the kind of person a room forgot was standing in it. I learned this early, at my parents' memorial, when I was 9 years old. The adults spoke over my head about who would take me in, as if I were a piece of furniture that had been left behind. At family dinners, when I was a teenager, the conversation flowed around me like a river around a stone. At Christmas, my gifts were always the ones that had clearly been bought last, in a hurry, by someone who had remembered me at the door of the shop. I had stopped minding it a long time ago. When you grow up being forgotten, you learn to use the quiet. You learn to watch. You learn to listen to the things people say when they think no one who matters is in the room. On the morning of my grandmother's funeral, I learned exactly how much I had heard over the years, and how little anyone had ever guessed that I was listening. My grandmother was named Margaret Whitmore. She had built the Whitmore family company from a single shop into something with offices in 3 cities, and she had done it with her own 2 hands after her husband passed away young. She was the sharpest person I had ever known. She noticed everything. She forgave very little, and for reasons that I did not fully understand until much later. She had spent the last years of her life keeping me at a careful distance, the way you keep something safe by not letting anyone know how much you value it. She passed away quietly in her sleep, at the age of 81, on a cold morning in early spring. Her heart, the doctor said gently, had simply grown tired. There was nothing anyone could have done. She had gone the way she had wanted to go, in her own bed, in her own house. With the morning light coming through the tall windows, she had always refused to cover with curtains. The funeral was large and beautiful and almost entirely false. My Uncle Gerald, my grandmother's only living son, stood at the front in a black suit that had been pressed within an inch of its life. And he wept exactly the right amount for exactly the right number of seconds whenever a photographer was near. My Aunt Diane, his wife, wore a black dress that must have cost more than I made in 3 months, and she held a white handkerchief to her eyes without ever quite letting it touch them. My cousin Vanessa, their daughter, who was a year younger than me and had been the golden child of the family since the day she was born, stood between them looking pale and lovely and tragic, accepting the soft condolences of strangers as if she were the one who had lost the most. My Aunt Caroline, my grandmother's daughter, had flown in from across the ocean 2 days before. She lived abroad and had not visited in 4 years. She cried more loudly than anyone, and she told me, gripping my hands at the graveside, that we had to be strong for each other now, that we were all each other had left. I had not spoken to Caroline in 3 years. I let her hold my hands, and I stood where I always stood, a little to the side, a little behind, in the quiet. I did cry, but not where anyone could see me. I had loved my grandmother, in the strange, distant, watchful way she had allowed me to love her. She had been hard. She had been cold. Often, but she had never once lied to me. And in my family, that made her the only honest person I had ever known. The reading of the will was scheduled for 2 o'clock that afternoon, at the family house, in the large study that had been my grandmother's favorite room. We gathered there after the funeral. Uncle Gerald sat in the largest chair, naturally, the one nearest the desk. Aunt Diane sat beside him with her hands folded in her lap. Vanessa sat on a small sofa near the window. Aunt Caroline took the armchair opposite Gerald. And the 2 of them eyed each other across the room, the way 2 people eye each other when they have spent their whole lives competing for the same approval and have never once admitted it. I sat in a hard wooden chair by the bookshelf, the forgotten chair, the one nobody else wanted. The family lawyer was a man named Mr. Harding. He was about 70, with white hair and a soft, careful voice. and he had been my grandmother's lawyer for nearly 40 years. He had been at the funeral, standing at the back, and he had given me one small, steady nod when our eyes met, which I had not understood at the time. He sat down at my grandmother's desk, opened a leather folder, and put on a pair of reading glasses. "Thank you all for being here," he said. "I know this is a difficult day. I will be as clear and as brief as I can." He read the small things first: a sum of money to the staff who had served the household for many years, a donation to the hospital that had cared for my grandmother in her final months, a set of personal items, jewelry and books and paintings, divided among various relatives, each one named carefully, each one explained in my grandmother's own dry words, which Mr. Harding read aloud without changing them. I noticed that Gerald began to shift in his chair as the list went on. I noticed that Diane's folded hands had gone very still. I noticed that Caroline had stopped pretending to dab at her eyes. They were all waiting for the same thing: the house, the company, the shares, the real inheritance, the thing they had all flown in for, dressed up for, wept for. Mr. Harding turned to the final page. He paused. He looked up, over his glasses, and his eyes moved slowly around the room until they came to rest on me, in my hard chair, by the bookshelf. "And now," he said, "the principal estate?" The room went very quiet. "I, Margaret Whitmore," he read, "being of sound mind, do leave the entirety of my remaining estate, including the family residence, its contents, and my controlling shares in Whitmore and Company, to my granddaughter, Grace Whitmore, the daughter of my late son Edward." For one long moment, nobody moved. I did not move either. I am not sure I breathed. Then the room broke. Gerald was on his feet. "This is a mistake," he said. "This is obviously a mistake. She was not well at the end. Everyone knows she was not well." Diane's hand had risen to her chest. Caroline had half stood from her chair. Vanessa, on the sofa by the window, was staring at me with an expression I could not read. And I sat very still in my hard wooden chair. And I looked at Mr. Harding, and I waited, because his eyes had told me there was more. Mr. Harding raised one hand, gently, and the room slowly settled. The way a room settles when people realize that shouting will not change what is written on a page. "There is a condition," he said. He looked back down at the document. "It is my wish," he read, "that my granddaughter Grace shall inherit fully only after she has lived in the family residence for a period of 30 days. Beginning the day after this, will is read during those 30 days. It is my wish that my son Gerald, his wife Diane, their daughter Vanessa, and my daughter Caroline also reside in the family home, as guests, so that the family may spend this time together. At the end of 30 days, the inheritance shall pass to Grace in full, without further condition. Should Grace choose to leave before the 30 days are complete, or should she choose at the end of that time to divide the estate differently, that choice shall be hers, and hers alone, to make freely." He set the page down. "I understand," he said, looking around the room, "that this is an unusual condition. Mrs. Whitmore was very specific about it. She wrote it in her own hand and signed it before 2 witnesses. It is entirely valid. The 30 days begin tomorrow." For a moment, nobody said anything. Then Aunt Diane did something that told me everything I needed to know about the next 30 days. She turned to me, and she smiled. It was a warm smile, a loving smile, a smile that reached all the way up into her eyes and crinkled the corners of them with what looked exactly like affection. "Oh, Grace," she said softly, Of course you should have it. Mother always loved you so much. We have so much catching up to do. Sweetheart, 30 days? Why? It will be just like having you home again. Beside her, Gerald's furious face was rearranging itself, muscle by muscle, into something gentler. Caroline was already wiping at fresh tears and saying what a beautiful idea it was. What a chance for the family to heal. Vanessa, on the sofa, looked from her mother to her father, and then she looked at me. And she smiled too. Although her smile was slower and less certain than the others, I looked at all of their loving faces, and in the quiet, where I had always lived, where I had always watched and listened, a single clear thought formed in my mind. In my grandmother's dry, exact voice, almost as if she were sitting in her own chair behind the desk. Watch how they love you now, Grace. That night, after the others had gone to their rooms, I went up to the small bedroom at the end of the east hall that had always been mine on the rare nights I had stayed in this house as a child. On the pillow, propped against the headboard, there was a plain white envelope. My name was written across the front of it in my grandmother's small, sharp, unmistakable handwriting. I sat down on the edge of the bed, and with hands that were not quite steady, I opened it. Inside the envelope, there was a single folded sheet of paper and a small flat key on a length of red ribbon. The note was short. My dear Grace, it read, by the time you read this, the will has been read, and you have seen their faces. You have always seen more than you let on. I have counted on that. In the drawer of the writing desk by the window, you will find a small tablet that belongs to me. The key opens the drawer. Watch the first recording tonight. Alone, with the door locked. Trust no smiling face in this house until you have heard everything I have to say. I love you. I have always loved you. Even when I could not show it safely. Margaret, I read it 3 times. Then I crossed to the writing desk by the window, fitted the small key into the lock of the drawer, and turned it. Inside, wrapped in a soft gray cloth, there was a slim tablet. It was an old model, scratched at the corners, the kind of thing a wealthy old woman keeps for years because it still works, and she sees no reason to replace it. I lifted it out, sat back down on the bed, locked the bedroom door as she had asked, and turned it on. There was a single video file waiting on the screen. It was titled, simply, Day 1. I pressed it. My grandmother's face filled the screen. She was sitting at her desk, in this very house, in the soft yellow light of the lamp she had always kept there. She looked thinner than I remembered, and older, but her eyes were as clear and as sharp as they had ever been. She looked directly into the camera, directly at me, and for a moment I had to press my hand to my mouth, because it had only been a few days, and I missed her so much that it surprised me. Grace, she said, if you are watching this, then I am gone, and the will has been read, and you are sitting in your old room with the door locked. The way I asked. Good. You always did what I asked, even when no one else noticed that you had. That is one of the reasons I chose you. She folded her hands on the desk. Let me tell you what I have done, she said, and why. I have left you everything, the house, the company, the shares, not because you are the only family I have, but because you are the only family I trust. I have watched this family for 60 years. I built it. And I have watched what it has become. Your Uncle Gerald is greedy and weak, and he learned both of those things from me, and I have made my peace with my part in it. Your Aunt Diane is the most dangerous person in this house, and she is dangerous precisely because she is the warmest. Your Aunt Caroline cares for no one but herself and has not since she was a child. And your cousin Vanessa is not yet decided. She has been raised by wolves. but I am not certain she is one yet. Watch her. I could be wrong about her. I would like to be—" She paused. "Now," she said, "the 30 days. I did not set that condition to be cruel or clever, although it is a little of both. I set it because I know exactly what will happen during those 30 days, and I want you to see it with your own eyes, so that you never doubt, for the rest of your life, what these people truly are. Tomorrow morning, they will begin to love you. They will love you more than they have ever loved you in your entire life. Your Aunt Diane will be the first. She will be tender and kind, and she will start to call you sweetheart and darling. She will fuss over your room. She will ask about your childhood as if she ever cared about it. She will do this because she has 30 days to convince you to share what is yours. And she is very, very good at her work. They will not threaten you. At first, that is not how clever people take things. They will love you until you feel guilty for having so much when they have so little. They will love you until you offer, all on your own, to give it back. That is the trap. Do not step into it. Do not sign a single document. Do not promise a single thing. Be kind. Be grateful. Be quiet. The way you have always been quiet. And watch." She leaned a little closer to the camera. "There is something else you need to know," she said, and her voice changed. It became quieter and harder, and for the first time she did not look sharp. She looked tired and very sad. "There is a great deal about your mother and father that you were never told," she said. "About how they lost everything before they passed. About why. I was a coward. Grace, I knew things, and I did not act on them. Because acting would have torn this family apart while I was still trying to hold it together. I have spent the last years of my life ashamed of that silence. This will, and these 30 days, and what I have left for you to find, are the only way I know to make it right. In the bottom of the drawer where you found this tablet, there is a second key, a brass one. I am not going to tell you yet what it opens. You are not ready. Watch the family first. Learn what they are, when you have seen enough. Watch the second recording. It is titled, Day 15. Do not watch it before then. You will understand why when you do. One last thing," she said. She almost smiled. "This house has eyes," she said. "I had cameras installed throughout the main rooms in the last year of my life. Not the bedrooms. I am not a monster. But the study, the drawing room, the dining room, the halls. They record to a private system that only Mr. Harding, and now you can access. He will show you how. Everything that happens in those rooms over the next 30 days will be recorded. They do not know the cameras are there," she said. "They never thought to wonder what an old woman does with her time and her money. Let them perform. Grace, let them love you for 30 days, and let the house remember every moment of it. I love you. Be patient. Be brave. I will speak to you again on the 15th day." The recording ended. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, in the quiet, holding the tablet in my lap, while the house creaked and settled around me in the dark. Then I reached back into the drawer, felt along the bottom, and found the second key, a small brass key, cold and heavy in my palm. I did not know yet what it opened, but for the first time in my entire life, I did not feel like the person a room forgot was standing in it. I felt like the person who had been left the keys to the whole house. I turned off the lamp. I lay down in the dark, and somewhere above me, in the great quiet house that was now mine, I could almost feel my grandmother watching and waiting and trusting me to be exactly as patient as she had asked. Tomorrow, they would begin to love me. I would be ready. They began to love me at breakfast. When I came down the stairs the next morning, The dining room had been transformed. The heavy morning gloom of the day before was gone. There were fresh flowers on the table. There was a spread of food far larger than 5 people could eat. And there was my Aunt Diane, standing at the head of the table in a soft cream sweater, with her arms already opening toward me as I walked in. "Grace," she said warmly. "Good morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well? Come, sit here, by me. I had Rosa make those little almond pastries you used to love." I had never, in my life, told Diane that I loved almond pastries. I doubted she had ever known what I loved. But the pastries were there, arranged on a small plate at the seat beside hers. And so I sat down where she wanted me to sit. And I said, "Thank you, Diane. That is very kind." She laughed lightly and touched my arm. "Oh, you do not have to be so formal," she said. "We are family. Call me Aunt Diane, or just Diane, if you like. Whatever feels warm to you." Across the table, Uncle Gerald lowered his newspaper and beamed at me. "Grace," he said, "there she is. You know, you look more like your father every year. Edward had that same quiet way about him. A good man. Your father. A very good man." In my old life, no one in this family had spoken my father's name in front of me in years. They had treated his memory like a stain on the furniture, something to be quietly stepped around. Now Gerald was speaking it warmly, fondly, with his eyes slightly misty. The morning after he had called his own mother unwell in front of a lawyer. "I noted it," I said. "Thank you, Uncle Gerald. I like to think I take after him." Caroline swept in a moment later, kissed the top of my head as if I were a small child, and declared that the whole family being under one roof again was exactly what Mother would have wanted. The dear woman. And that she, for one, intended to make the most of every single one of these 30 precious days. And then there was Vanessa. She came down last, in soft clothes, with her hair loose, and she paused in the doorway when she saw me sitting at her mother's right hand. Something flickered across her face, too fast for the others to catch. Then she came and sat across from me and said, "Good morning, Grace," in a voice that was quieter and more uncertain than her parents' voices. "Good morning, Vanessa," I said. She looked at me for a moment longer than the others had. Then she picked up her cup of tea and looked down into it. I remembered my grandmother's words. "She is not yet decided. Watch her." Breakfast went on for a long time. They asked me questions. So many questions. About my apartment, my job, my friends, my health, my childhood. They asked the questions of people who had suddenly become very interested in a person they had ignored for 26 years. And they listened to my answers with an attention that would have moved me to tears if I had not known exactly why it was happening. In my old life, I would have been moved to tears. I would have thought, finally they see me. I would have opened like a flower in the sun, and I would have been so grateful, so eager to be loved, that I would have given them anything they asked for, and thanked them for taking it. This was not my old life. This was the second one. The one my grandmother had handed me through a locked drawer and a small flat key. So I smiled. And I answered their questions warmly. And I gave them nothing real. And I watched. After breakfast, Diane took my arm and walked me up the stairs. "I have been thinking, sweetheart," she said. "That little room at the end of the East Hall is so small and cold. It was only ever a guest room. Now that this is your house, you should have the master suite. Mother's old rooms. They are beautiful, and they are yours by right. Let me have Rosa move your things this afternoon. We will make it lovely for you. New linens, fresh flowers every day. You deserve to feel at home. Grace? It was a generous offer. It was a kind offer, and it would have moved my things out of the only room in this house where my grandmother had ever spoken to me honestly, and into a room that Diane would then have full and natural access to clean, to tidy, to search. I thought of the tablet in the locked drawer, the 2 keys, the recordings.
"Oh," I said softly, "that is so thoughtful of you. But honestly, Diane, the little room means so much to me. I stayed there as a child. It is the room where I feel closest to grandmother. I hope you do not mind if I keep it."
Just for these 30 days, it would mean a great deal to me. For half a second, the warmth in Diane's face wavered. Just for half a second. Then it returned. Smoother than before. "Of course, sweetheart," she said. "Of course. Whatever makes you feel close to her. That is what these days are for." She squeezed my arm and went back downstairs. I went into my small, cold room, locked the door behind me, and let out a long, slow breath. That afternoon, the first document appeared. It was Gerald who brought it. He found me in the library, where I had gone to sit quietly with a book, and he came in with 2 cups of tea and an easy, fatherly smile. And he sat down across from me as if we had been close all our lives. "Grace," he said, "I do not want to trouble you with boring things during such an emotional time, but I thought I should mention. There is a great deal of paperwork that comes with an estate like this. Tax matters, business filings, tedious things. You should not have to carry all of that alone, especially when you have no experience with it. I have run the family company alongside Mother for 30 years. I know it inside and out. So I had my own lawyer draw up a simple arrangement. Just a temporary power of attorney, so that I can handle the dull paperwork on your behalf while you grieve. Nothing permanent, just to take the weight off your shoulders." He slid a folder across the small table toward me. "It would be such a relief to me," he said gently, "to know you were not being buried under all of this. Your father would have wanted me to look after you." I looked at the folder. I did not open it. I did not need to. I knew exactly what a temporary power of attorney over an entire estate could do in the hands of a man who knew the company inside and out. I looked up at Gerald and let my face fill with warmth and gratitude. "Uncle Gerald," I said, "thank you. Truly, that is so generous of you. I am completely overwhelmed by all of it. You are right. I do not understand any of it." His smile widened. "But," I said, and I let a little anxious wobble into my voice, "Mr. Harding was very firm with me. He said that because of the condition in the will, I am not allowed to sign anything at all that touches the estate until the 30 days are complete. Something about it voiding the whole inheritance. I would hate to do anything that might ruin grandmother's wishes. Maybe we could ask him together? After the 30 days? I would feel so much safer doing it properly." It was not true. Mr. Harding had said no such thing. But Gerald did not know that. And the moment I invoked the lawyer and the threat of voiding the will, I watched the calculation happen behind his eyes. He could push and risk frightening me into calling Harding, who might then explain that I was free to sign whatever I liked. Or he could retreat, smile, and wait. He retreated. Of course," he said, drawing the folder back. "You are quite right. We should do everything properly. No rush at all. Plenty of time." He patted my hand and left the folder on his own side of the table. When he had gone, I sat alone in the library with my cup of tea, and I let myself smile, just a little, into the quiet. 2 days into the 30, one offer of a room, designed to give them access to my secrets, one offer of paperwork, designed to give them access to my inheritance. Both refused, gently, with a smile, in a way that gave no one anything to push against. That evening, after dinner, I went to see Mr. Harding at his office in town, and he showed me, on a small private laptop, how to access the cameras. The footage was clear, the sound was clean, and there, on the afternoon recording from the library, was Uncle Gerald, sitting across from me with his fatherly smile, sliding a folder across the table. And there, an hour later, was Uncle Gerald again, alone in the library, on the telephone, his fatherly smile entirely gone, saying to someone on the other end, "She is more careful than I thought. The little mouse has grown some teeth. We will have to be patient. We have 28 days. I watched it twice. Then I thanked Mr. Harding, and I drove back to the great quiet house, where my family was waiting to love me a little more in the morning. If Diane was the warmest danger in the house, Vanessa was the most confusing. She came to my door on the 6th day, in the late morning, holding 2 cups of coffee and looking almost shy. "I thought," she said, "maybe we could spend the day together. Just us. I know we never really..." She paused. "We never really knew each other growing up. That was not your fault. I think it was mostly mine, or my parents'. I do not know. I would like to fix it, if you would let me." I looked at her standing in my doorway with 2 cups of coffee and an expression I could not quite read, and I remembered my grandmother's words again. I could be wrong about her. "I would like to be..." I said. "I would like that, Vanessa." We spent the day together. She drove us into the city. We walked through the old market, and she bought me a scarf in a deep green color and would not let me refuse it. We had lunch at a small place by the river. She talked, more than I had ever heard her talk, about her life, about how tired she was of being the perfect daughter, about how she had wanted to study art but her father had insisted on business, about a man she had loved at university whom her mother had quietly driven away because he was not suitable. Some of it, I was sure, was performance. The whole day had the shape of a mission. I knew, without being told, that Diane had sent her. Get close to Grace, become her sister, find out what she is thinking, soften her up. But some of it was not performance. I had spent my whole life listening to the difference between the things people say to get something and the things people say because they cannot hold them in any longer. And when Vanessa spoke about the man she had loved, and the way her mother had smiled while she destroyed it, there was something underneath her voice that was not part of any mission. There was something real there, something tired, something that had been ignored for as long as I had been ignored, only in a louder and more gilded way. "You and I," she said to me, near the end of the day, as we sat by the river watching the light go orange on the water, "we are not as different as everyone always said. You were the one they forgot. I was the one they used. I am not sure which is worse." I did not answer that, but I remembered it. When she dropped me back at the house that evening, she paused before I got out of the car. "Grace," she said, "can I tell you something, and you do not have to believe me?" I waited. "My mother told me to get close to you," she said quietly, looking straight ahead through the windshield. "She told me to find out what you are planning. She told me to make you love me, so that when the time comes, you will not be able to say no to us." She turned and looked at me. "I am telling you that," she said, "because I am tired of being the kind of person who does that. I do not know yet if I am brave enough to be a different kind of person, but I wanted you to know that at least one person in that house told you the truth this week." Then she looked away, and I understood that the conversation was over, and I got out of the car. I stood in the driveway and watched her park. and walk into the house, and I did not know, yet, what to do with what she had given me.
My grandmother had said, "Watch her. I could be wrong about her."
I thought, perhaps, that she had been, but I had learned, the hard way, in a life I could barely remember the shape of, that a person who tells you a true thing once is not yet a person you can trust with everything. Vanessa had given me one piece of honesty. It was a beginning. It was not a foundation. I would hold it carefully, and I would watch what she did next, and I would not, yet, build anything on it. The next morning, I went to see Mr. Harding again, and I asked him to begin, very quietly, to teach me the business. I had decided that I would not spend these 30 days only watching my family perform. I would spend them becoming someone who could actually run what my grandmother had left me. If I was going to keep this inheritance, I would not keep it as the helpless, grateful girl they all believed me to be. I would keep it as a person who understood every number, every contract, every name. Mr. Harding seemed pleased. He introduced me to a young associate at his firm named Nathan Reed, who had grown up knowing the Whitmore Company because his late father had been one of my grandmother's earliest business partners. Nathan was patient and clear and kind, and over the following weeks he sat with me for hours, explaining the structure of the company, the shares, the contracts, the slow, careful machinery of it all. I want to be very clear, because I know how these stories are supposed to go. I did not fall in love with Nathan Reed. He did not fall in love with me. He became, over those weeks, something I had never really had before, which was a friend who expected nothing from me and gave me his honesty for free. That, it turned out, was worth far more to me than any romance. I had spent my whole life being wanted by people who wanted something. A person who simply helped me and asked for nothing was a kind of miracle. By the 10th day, I understood the Whitmore Company better than my Uncle Gerald believed I ever could. By the 10th day, I had also begun to notice something strange. There was a clue in my grandmother's first recording that I had not understood. She had said, "In the bottom of the drawer, there is a second key, a brass one. I am not going to tell you yet what it opens." And in her note she had written, "Watch the family first, learn what they are, then watch the recording titled Day 15. But there was something else. On the back of the folded note, in tiny writing I had almost missed, she had added one more line. "When you are ready to use the brass key," she had written, "look behind the painting of the coast road. In my study, you always loved that painting. So did your father." I knew the painting. It hung in my grandmother's study. It showed a winding road along a cliff above the sea, gray and stormy, with a single small light glowing in a house far off on the headland. I had loved it as a child. I had not known, until I read that line, that my father had loved it too. On the night of the 14th day, when the house was dark and quiet and everyone had gone to bed, I took the small brass key, and I went down to my grandmother's study, and I stood in front of the painting of the coast road. I lifted it carefully off the wall. Behind it, set into the wall, there was a small gray safe with a brass keyhole. I did not open it that night, my grandmother had said. "Watch the recording titled Day 15 first. You will understand why when you do." I hung the painting back on the wall. I went up to my room. I lay awake for a long time. In the morning, it would be the 15th day. I would watch the second recording, and I would finally learn what had happened to my mother and father. I watched the second recording at dawn on the 15th day, alone, with the door locked, sitting on the edge of my bed, exactly as I had 2 weeks before. My grandmother's face appeared again. She looked even more tired in this recording than in the first. She had clearly made it on a different day, perhaps a harder one. Grace, she said, if you are watching this, then half the days have passed, and you have seen what they are. I do not need to ask whether your uncle tried to make you sign something, or whether your aunt tried to move you into a room she could search, or whether they sent that poor confused girl to befriend you. I know them. I raised some of them. I know exactly the play they are running, because it is the same play they ran 20 years ago. On your father. She folded her hands. I am going to tell you now, she said, what happened to Edward, to your father, and to your mother, Catherine. I should have told you years ago. I was a coward. I am sorry. I held my breath.
Your father, she said, was my elder son. He was meant to take over the company. He was good at it.
Far better than Gerald, and far kinder. He had a way with people. The staff loved him. The clients trusted him. I was proud of him in a way I never let him fully see, which is another thing I will regret for whatever time I have left. Gerald could not bear it. She said Gerald had always been the second son, the lesser one, and he could not bear the thought of spending his life in Edward's shadow. So Gerald, with Diane at his side, because it was always Diane who did the thinking, set out to remove your father. They did it the way clever, cowardly people do everything, quietly, with papers, with whispers. They fabricated a scandal. She said, they arranged for it to look as though Edward had been moving company money improperly into private accounts. They forged documents. They planted records. They were patient, and they were thorough. And by the time it was done, even I, his own mother, was shown evidence that made me doubt him, to my shame. For a time, I did doubt him. I confronted him. We argued terribly. He swore he was innocent. I wanted to believe him, but the papers were so convincing. And Diane was so calm, and so reasonable, and so very, very kind about how sorry she was that it had come to this. Under the pressure of it, my grandmother said, your father agreed to step away from the company. He sold his shares back, far below their value, to protect the family name from a scandal that was never real. Gerald took his place, and your mother and father took you, and they left the city, and they tried to begin again with almost nothing. She paused for a long moment. A little over a year later, she said softly, on a rainy night, on the old coast road, your parents' car went off the road above the sea. You were at home with a sitter. You were 5 years old. They did not come home. The report said the road was wet and the night was dark and the turn was sharp. Perhaps that is all it was. Perhaps a tired man, driving a worried wife home through the rain, simply misjudged a corner he had driven 100 times before. I have never been able to prove it was anything more than that. She said, I want to be honest with you, Grace, because you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort. I do not have proof that anyone harmed them on that road. What I have is something else. What I have is proof of what was done to your father before that night. The papers they forged, the scandal they invented, the theft of his life's work and his good name. I have spent years quietly gathering it, recovering the real records, tracking the forgeries back to the people who made them. It is all in the safe behind the painting of the coast road. She said, the painting your fathers loved. I hung the proof of what they did to him behind the only thing of his that I had left. The brass key opens it. She leaned toward the camera. I am not telling you this so that you will hate them, she said. Hatred is a poor inheritance, and I have left you better things than that. I am telling you so that you will understand who you are dealing with, and why you must not, under any circumstances, give these people 1 inch of what is now yours. They did not merely overlook you, Grace. They built their comfortable lives on the ruins of your mother and father. The house you are sleeping in tonight was bought, in part, with the future they stole from your family. When the 30 days are complete, she said, the inheritance will be fully yours, and you will be free to do exactly as you wish. You may use what is in that safe, or you may not. You may forgive them, or you may not. That is your right, and yours alone. I have given you the truth and the means. What you build from it is up to you. That is what a real inheritance is. Not money. The freedom to choose what kind of person you will be, with no one able to take the choice from you. I love you, she said. I am sorry it took me so long, and a recording made in a locked study, to finally tell you the truth. Be patient for 15 more days, then choose well. The recording ended. I sat very still for a long time.
I did not cry the way I had expected to. The grief was older than that. It was a grief I had
Carried my whole life without knowing its shape. And now that I knew its shape, it did not break me. It settled into me, and it changed me. The way a river changes the land it runs through, slowly and permanently. When the house had woken up, and the smell of breakfast had begun to drift up the stairs, and I could hear Diane's warm voice already calling sweetly for me, I went down to my grandmother's study. I lifted the painting of the coast road off the wall. I fitted the brass key into the small gray safe, and I opened it. Inside there were folders, many folders, old documents and new ones, the forged records that had destroyed my father, and beside them, clipped together with careful notes in my grandmother's handwriting, the real records that proved the forgeries for what they were. There were letters. There were copies of the fraudulent share transfer that had stripped my father of his future. There was a long, detailed account, in my grandmother's hand, of everything she had learned, dated and signed. There was, in short, 20 years of patient, quiet, devastating truth. I took it all out. I carried it up to my small cold room. I locked the door, and I spent the rest of the 15th day reading every page. Slowly, the way my grandmother had taught me to read everything. When I was finished, I knew exactly what had been done to my parents, and by whom, and how. And I made my decision. I would not act now. I would let the remaining 15 days play out. I would let my family love me right up until the final morning. I would let the cameras record every soft lie and every sweet manipulation. And on the 30th day, when the inheritance was fully and legally mine, and no one could take it from me, I would put the truth on the table, in front of all of them, and let it speak in my grandmother's voice and my father's name.
I would not scream. I would not need to.
The truth had waited 20 years. It could wait 15 more days. People show you who they are most clearly when they are running out of time. I had learned this in a life I could barely remember, and I watched it prove itself again over the next several days. As the 30-day clock ran down and my family began, slowly, to lose their patience. The loving had reached its peak around the 10th day. After the 15th, it began, very subtly, to curdle. It started with small things. Diane's compliments grew a fraction sharper at the edges, where she had once said, "You are so thoughtful, sweetheart." She now said things like, "You are so independent. Grace, almost too independent. A girl your age should let her family help her more." Gerald began to mention, casually, over dinner, how complicated the company's affairs were. How a single inexperienced person at the helm could do real damage. How shareholders did not like uncertainty. How the staff were nervous about the future. They were planting a new story now. Not she is so loved. The new story was she cannot manage this alone. She will ruin it. She needs us. It was the same story, I realized with a cold clarity, that they had once planted about my father, He has been moving money improperly. He cannot be trusted. He must step away for the good of the family. They only had one play. They had run it on Edward 20 years ago, and now they were running it on his daughter. And they did not even know that I was holding, in a locked drawer upstairs, the proof of the first time. On the 18th day, Aunt Caroline took her turn. She found me in the garden, in the late afternoon, and she sat beside me on the stone bench by the roses, and she took my hand in both of hers, and she became, very suddenly, deeply maternal. "Grace," she said, her eyes filling, "I have been watching you these last weeks, all alone with this enormous burden, and my heart simply breaks for you. You are so young. You have no parents to guide you. And here you are, expected to carry an entire family company on your shoulders. It is not right. Mother should never have put this on you." I said nothing. I let her continue. "I have been thinking," she said, "that the kindest thing, the most loving thing, would be for the family to come together and share this responsibility. Not to take anything from you, sweetheart. Never that. Simply to lift the weight. If you were to divide things fairly among us all, you would still have your share, a generous share, and you would be free. Free to live your life. Free to be young. You would not have to carry any of this alone. Would that not be a relief? Would that not be what your dear grandmother truly wanted, deep down, for her family to be together?" She squeezed my hand. "I have even taken the liberty," she said, "of asking Gerald's lawyer to sketch out how such a sharing might look. Just a sketch. Nothing binding, just so you could see how simple and how fair it could be. Would you look at it, darling? For me? For the family?"
In my old life, I think, this would have been the one that broke me. Not Gerald's bluntness, not Diane's sweetness. This, a weeping aunt, holding my hands, telling me I did not have to be alone. I had been alone my entire life. The offer to not be alone was the most dangerous offer anyone could have made me.
But I had watched my grandmother explain the trap in a locked study at dawn. I had read 20 years of proof in my small, cold room. I knew exactly what fair and sharing and together meant in the mouths of these people. They meant the same thing they had meant when they took my father's future for a fraction of its worth and called it protecting the family name. So I let my own eyes fill, because that part was not difficult. And I said, "Aunt Caroline, thank you. It means so much to me that you worry about me. I do feel so alone sometimes." Her face brightened with hope. "But," I said, and I let my voice tremble, "I made a promise to grandmother. Mr. Harding read me her wishes so carefully. I am not allowed to divide or sign or promise anything until the 30 days are complete, or the whole inheritance is voided, and then none of us would have anything, and I would have broken her last wish. I could not bear to break her last wish. Aunt Caroline, I just could not. Could we please wait until the days are done? Then we can all sit down together, properly, with Mr. Harding, and talk about everything. I promise I will listen to everyone then." It was the same gentle wall I had used on Gerald. The will, the lawyer, the danger of avoiding everything. It was a wall they could not climb, because to climb it, they would have to march me to Mr. Harding, and Mr. Harding might tell me the truth, which was that I could do whatever I liked. Caroline's hopeful face went slack, then tightened, then rearranged itself into understanding. "Of course," she said, a little flatly. "Of course. Darling, we will wait. You are right to honor her wishes." She let go of my hands and went back inside. That evening, on the camera footage from the drawing room, I watched the three of them gather. When they believed they were alone, I watched Caroline report her failure. I watched Gerald's face darken. I watched Diane, calm and cold,
and entirely without her daytime warmth, lean back in her chair and say the thing that told me they had reached the final stage of the only play they knew.
"If she will not be reasonable," Diane said, "then perhaps we need to make the case that she is not reasonable. A girl that age, living alone, no parents, inheriting all this so suddenly. People would understand if there were concerns about her stability, her fitness to manage. We would only need a doctor or two to agree that the stress had been too much for her. For her own good, of course."
"It is what we should have done with Edward," Gerald muttered.
"We did do it with Edward," Diane said coolly, in a manner of speaking, "and it worked." I sat alone in Mr. Harding's office, watching this on a small screen, and I felt something go very still and very cold inside me. They had said it out loud, on camera, in my grandmother's house. They had connected the two things themselves, with their own mouths, in their own voices. What they had done to my father, what they were preparing to do to me. I did not feel afraid. I want you to understand that. I had been afraid my whole life, of being forgotten, of being unloved, of being not enough. I was not afraid of this. This I had been built for. I looked at Mr. Harding. "How many days left?" he asked quietly. 12, I said. "Then we wait 12 days, he said, "and we make sure everything is ready." "We will," I said. And on the screen in front of us, my family went on quietly planning how to prove that I was too fragile to keep what was mine, never once imagining that the old woman they had outlived was still, even now, watching them through the walls of her own house. The mask slipped on the 23rd day. It happened at dinner, and it happened because of me. Although no one in the room knew that I had arranged it, I had decided. After watching Diane calmly propose to question my stability, that I wanted one thing on camera that no clever lawyer could ever explain away. I did not want only the strategy, the cool planning in empty rooms. I wanted this cruelty. I wanted the real face. The one beneath the warm one, captured in a moment when they forgot themselves. So at dinner that night, gently, in my soft and grateful voice, I began to talk about my father. "I do not know what made me think of it today," I said, looking down at my plate, "but I have been remembering my father lately. Little things, the sound of his voice. He used to sing in the car. Did you know that? When I was very small, he had a terrible voice and he sang anyway." The table went a little quiet. "I miss him," I said simply, "and my mother, I think I would have liked to know what they were really like. As grown people, I was so young. I only have a child's memories. Sometimes I wonder what they would think of all this, of me being here, of having all of grandmother's things." I looked up with wide, soft, grieving eyes, and I said, "Do you ever think about them? Uncle Gerald? You were father's brother. Do you ever miss him?" It was a gentle question, an innocent question, the question of a lonely orphan reaching for connection. And it worked exactly as I had hoped. Because Diane, who had been drinking a little more wine than usual that evening, and who was 23 days into a performance that was not going the way she had planned, set down her glass with a small, sharp click and let something slip. "Edward," she said, with a thin little laugh, "made his own choices. Grace, let us not pretend he was some innocent saint. Your father was not half as clever as he thought he was. If he had been, things would have gone differently for him, and you would not have grown up in some little flat eating out of tins. You have your grandmother to thank for sitting in this house tonight, not the memory of a man who lost everything he had through his own foolishness." The table froze. Gerald said, sharply.
Diane.
Caroline's mouth had fallen open. Vanessa had gone very pale and very still. And I sat with my wide, grieving eyes and my soft, trembling mouth. And I did not say a word, because the cameras in the corners of the dining room were saying everything for me.
Diane realized, a half-second too late, what she had done. The warmth came flooding back into her face like water rushing to fill a crack. "Oh, sweetheart," she said quickly, "I am so sorry. That came out so wrong.
I have had a little too much wine. I only meant that life was unfair to your poor father. That is all. I would never. You know, I would never speak ill of him." I lowered my eyes and said, in a small voice, "It is all right. Aunt Diane, I know you did not mean it. People say things when they are tired." And I let her believe that the moment had passed, and that the forgotten little mouse had swallowed the insult the way she had always swallowed everything. But across the table, Vanessa was looking at her mother as though she had never truly seen her before. She came to my room that night. She knocked softly, after the house had gone dark, and when I opened the door, she was standing there in the dim hall, and her eyes were red, and her hands were shaking slightly. "Can I come in?" she said. I let her in. I locked the door behind her out of habit. She sat down on the edge of my bed, in the small cold room my grandmother had loved, and for a long moment she did not speak. Then she said, "My mother was lying, at dinner, about your father." I did not say anything. I waited. "I have been thinking about it all night," Vanessa said. The way she said it, if he had been clever, things would have gone differently, as if there was a thing that happened to him, as if it was not just bad luck, as if someone made it go a certain way. She looked up at me. "Grace," she said, "do you know something about your father, about what happened to him?" I have always felt like there was a story underneath the story in this family, my whole life, like there was a room everyone walked around and never went into. Do you know what is in that room? I looked at her for a long time. This was the choice my grandmother had left to me. Watch her. I could be wrong about her. I would like to be. Here was the girl who had been used as I had been forgotten. Here was the one person in that house who had told me a true thing when she did not have to. Here she was, in the middle of the night, asking the dangerous question, the one that could not be unasked. I did not show her the safe. I did not show her the documents. I was not foolish. And I was not finished. And 7 days still remained. But I gave her one true thing, in exchange for the true thing she had given me. "I think," I said quietly, "that a great deal of what you have been told about my father, and about a lot of things in this family, is not true. I think there is a room everyone walks around. I think I am about to open the door of it. Not tonight. Soon. And when I do, Vanessa, you are going to have to decide which side of that door you want to be standing on. I am not going to ask you to choose now. I am only telling you that the choice is coming." She was very quiet. "When it comes," she said finally, "will I have time to choose? Or will it already be too late for me?" "It is already almost too late for your parents," I said gently. "It is not too late for you. That is the difference between you and them. You are still asking the question. They stopped asking it 20 years ago." She nodded slowly. She stood up. At the door. She paused. "I am glad it was you," she said, "that grandmother chose. I am glad it was you and not us." Then she went back down the dark hall to her room, and I locked my door. And I stood for a while in the quiet. And I thought that perhaps my grandmother had been right to hope. Perhaps she had been right about all of it. 7 days remained. Everything was nearly ready. I went to see Mr. Harding in the morning, and Nathan, and we made the final arrangements for the 30th day. The footage was secured and copied. The documents from the safe were reviewed, verified, and prepared. Harding confirmed, again, that on the 30th day, the inheritance would pass to me in full, complete and untouchable. All that was left was to wait, and to let my family love me for 7 more days, all the way to the end. On the morning of the 30th day, the family gathered in the study, in the same room where the will had been read a month before, and they arranged themselves almost exactly as they had on that first afternoon. Gerald took the largest chair, nearest the desk. Diane sat beside him, composed and warm, her hands folded in her lap. Caroline took the armchair opposite. Vanessa sat on the small sofa by the window, where she had sat the first day. But this time she sat very straight and very pale, and she did not look at her parents. And I sat, by choice, in the hard wooden chair by the bookshelf, the forgotten chair, the one nobody else had ever wanted. I sat there on purpose. I wanted to begin this exactly where I had begun. Mr. Harding arrived at 10 o'clock. He had asked to be present. He had told the family, simply to formalize the completion of the 30 days and the transfer of the estate. They had been delighted. This was the morning they had been waiting for. Today, at last, the grateful, lonely, manageable girl would have what was hers. And then, surely, gently, over the coming days and weeks, they would help her to do the fair and loving thing with it. Mr. Harding sat at the desk and opened his leather folder. The 30 days are complete, he said, as of this morning, under the terms of the will of Margaret Whitmore. The entire estate, including this residence, its contents, and the controlling shares of Whitmore and Company, passes in full to Miss Grace Whitmore, without further condition. Grace, the inheritance is now yours, completely and without restriction. There is nothing further you are required to do, and nothing anyone can do to alter it. He looked at me over his glasses. It is done, he said. I felt the words settle into the room. Gerald let out a long breath and smiled. Wonderful, he said warmly. Wonderful. Congratulations. Grace, now, perhaps, now that the formalities are behind us, this would be a good moment for the family to sit down together and talk about the future. As a family, Mr. Harding, you are welcome to stay and advise.
Diane reached over and patted my knee. We are so proud of you. Sweetheart, she said, you have handled all of this so beautifully. Now let us take some of the weight off your shoulders at last. I looked at all their warm, hopeful, hungry faces, and then I stood up from the hard wooden chair, and I walked to the center of the room, and I said, before we talk about the future, I would like to talk about the past. I have something to show all of you. It will not take long. I nodded to Mr. Harding. He turned the laptop on the desk so that its screen faced the room, and he connected it to the large screen on the study wall, the one my grandmother had used for her business calls. I would like to show you, I said, some recordings from the last 30 days. The room had gone still. This house, I said quietly, has cameras. Grandmother had them installed in the last year of her life. The study, the drawing room, the dining room, the halls, not the bedrooms. She was not a monster, but everywhere else. None of you knew. Why would you? You never thought to wonder what an old woman did with her time and her money. I watched the color drain from Diane's face. The first clip began to play. It was Gerald, in the library, alone, on the telephone, 2 days into the 30, his fatherly smile entirely gone. She is more careful than I thought.
his voice said, clear and cold, through the speakers. "The little mouse has grown some teeth. We will have to be patient." The next clip, the three of them in the drawing room, after Caroline's failed appeal. Diane, leaning back, calm and cold. "Perhaps we need to make the case that she is not reasonable. We would only need a doctor or two to agree. For her own good, of course." And Gerald's voice. "It is what we should have done with Edward." And Diane again. "We did do it with Edward, in a manner of speaking, and it worked." The clip from the dining room. Diane, glass in hand, her thin little laugh. "Your father was not half as clever as he thought he was. You would not have grown up eating out of tins." I let them play, one after another, all the small cold moments when my family had forgotten to perform. I watched their faces as they watched themselves. I watched Gerald go gray. I watched Caroline press her handkerchief, for the first time in 30 days, to eyes that were actually wet with fear. I watched Diane's warm mask finally, completely fall away, until the face underneath it, the real face, the cold and calculating face, was the only one left in the room. When the recordings ended, the room was utterly silent. "That," I said, "is who you have been for the last 30 days. I wanted you to see it the way I have seen it, the way grandmother wanted me to see it." Diane recovered first. She always did. "Grace," she said, her voice tight, "those were private conversations, taken out of context. You cannot possibly—" "And now," I said, over her, quietly, "I would like to talk about my father." I walked to the wall, and I lifted down the painting of the coast road, and I set it on the desk facing the room, so they could all see it. The gray road, the cliff, the small far light in the lonely house on the headland. "My father loved this painting," I said. So did I. Grandmother knew that, so she hung the truth behind it. I opened my own folder, the one Mr. Harding had prepared, and I laid the documents out on the desk, one by one. "These are the records," I said, "that prove my father did not steal from this company. These are the forged documents that were used to make it appear that he did. These are the real records, recovered and verified, that show the forgeries for exactly what they are. This is the fraudulent share transfer that stripped my father of his future and handed it, at a fraction of its worth, to my Uncle Gerald. And this," I said, lifting the last and thickest folder, "is 20 years of my grandmother's own work, in her own hand, signed and dated, tracing every forgery back to the two people who made them, my Uncle Gerald and my Aunt Diane." I set it down. "You did not merely forget me," I said, looking around the room at their stricken faces. "You built your lives on the ruin of my mother and father. You took my father's name, and his work, and his future. You drove him out of this family with lies, and a little over a year later, on a rainy night on a coast road, he and my mother did not come home. I cannot prove what happened on that road. Grandmother could not either, and she was more honest than I am, so I will not pretend otherwise. But I can prove everything that came before it, and I can prove that 30 days ago, you sat in this house and discussed doing the very same thing to me, for my own good, of course." No one spoke. Gerald's mouth worked, but no sound came out. Caroline had begun to cry in earnest, soft and frightened. Diane sat perfectly still, her real face exposed, looking at me as though she were seeing me, the actual me, for the very first time, and did not at all like what she saw. "I want to be very clear about what happens now," I said. "I am not going to scream at you. I am not going to throw you out into the night. That is not who grandmother raised me to be. even if she only raised me from a distance. Mr. Harding has copies of everything you have just seen, the recordings, and the documents about my father. What is criminal in them, and a good deal of it is criminal, will be handled by lawyers and by the proper authorities, in their own time, in the proper way. Not by me, in a rage, in this room. I am done with this family running its affairs through whispers and forged papers in private. From now on, everything happens in the light. I looked at Gerald and Diane. You will leave this house today. I said, it is mine now, completely, and you are no longer welcome in it. You will not contest the will you have just watched yourselves admit, on camera, to planning to question my stability in order to take it. So I would not advise it. The company will be reorganized. You no longer have any role in it. What you face beyond that is no longer in my hands. It is in the hands of the law and the truth, which you have both spent 20 years avoiding, and which has finally patiently caught up with you. Then I turned to Caroline. You did not forge anything. I said, you were only greedy and a coward, and you let yourself be used. That is its own kind of failure, but it is a smaller one. You will also leave this house today. What relationship you and I have, if any, will depend entirely on the person you choose to be from this point forward. I am not closing that door. I am only telling you that you will have to walk back through it honestly, if you ever want it open. And then I turned, last of all, to Vanessa. She was sitting very straight on the small sofa by the window, pale, with tears running silently down her face, looking at me, and waiting, the way a person waits at the edge of a cliff to learn whether the ground beneath them is going to hold. I told you, I said gently, that a choice was coming, that you would have to decide which side of the door you wanted to be standing on. The door is open now. Vanessa, this is the moment. She stood up.
She looked, once, at her mother and father.
Then she crossed the room, and she came and stood beside me, next to the hard wooden chair by their bookshelf, the forgotten chair, in the quiet, where I had stood my whole life. I choose this side, she said, in a small, shaking, certain voice. And we stood there together, the granddaughter who had been forgotten and the daughter who had been used, while the rest of the family sat in the wreckage of 30 days of performance, in the room where a sharp old woman had, from beyond the reach of all of them, finally set the truth free. A year passed. That is the simplest way to say it, and the truest. A year is very long to live and very short to look back on. A great many things happened in that year, and most of the important ones happened slowly and quietly, which is, I come to believe, how most important things happen. Gerald and Diane left the house on the 30th day, as I had told them they would, and they did not come back. The matters that the law needed to handle, it handled, in its slow and proper way, in offices and quiet hearings far from the great house on the hill. I did not attend most of it. Mr. Harding kept me informed. I had decided, early on, that I did not want to spend my new life sitting in rooms watching the old one be punished. The truth had been set free. I did not need to stand guard over it. It could do its own work. I will tell you only that the forged documents were recognized for what they were, that my father's name was, at long last, formally cleared within the company he had once been driven from, and that Gerald and Diane faced real consequences for what they had done, consequences that were public and lasting, and entirely of their own making. They had built their lives on a lie for 20 years. When the lie finally fell, there was a great deal built on top of it, and all of it came down. I did not enjoy watching it, but I did not look away from it either. My grandmother had taught me that much. Caroline wrote to me. Some months later, it was a careful letter. It did not ask for anything, which was so unlike her that I read it twice to be sure. She said only that she had been doing a great deal of thinking, that she was ashamed of the part she had played, and that she hoped, one day, to earn the right to be a small and honest part of my life. I wrote back, just a few lines. I said that the door was still open, and that honesty was the only key that fitted. We write now and then. It is not much. It is real. That is more than we ever had before. Vanessa stayed. She moved out of her parents' world entirely, which cost her a great deal. More than I think she had expected. Because leaving the people who used you is never as simple as deciding to. There were hard months. There were nights she sat in my kitchen and wondered aloud whether she had ruined her life. But she did not go back. She enrolled. At last. In the art studies she had wanted since she was a girl. She is good at it. Better than good. She is happier than I have ever seen her. In the tired, honest way of a person who has finally stopped performing. She is my cousin, and she has become, slowly, the thing my grandmother once hoped and doubted she could be, and the thing I never had growing up. She has become my family. The real kind. The chosen kind. I did not run the company alone, and I did not run it the way it had been run. I kept Mr. Harding close until he retired at the end of that year, and then I kept Nathan Reed close, who had become, by then, one of the truest friends I have ever had. I built a board of people who were loyal to the truth and not to any family name. I learned the business properly, number by number, contract by contract, the way I had begun to learn it in those 30 days. Whitmore and Company did not collapse under an inexperienced girl. The way Gerald had warned the staff it would. It grew. Quietly. Honestly. In the light. And the house, I thought, for a while, about selling the great house on the hill. There were so many cold memories in it. The reading of the will. The 30 days of false love. The cameras in the corners of the rooms. But there were other memories too. My grandmother, in her study, in the soft yellow lamplight, refusing to cover her windows with curtains. The small cold room at the end of the East Hall, where she had spoken to me honestly when no one else in my life ever had. The painting of the coast road, which my father had loved, and which I have hung now in my own study, with nothing behind it but the wall. Because the truth it once hid has been let out into the world, and does not need to be kept in a safe any longer. So I kept the house. But I changed what it was for. I opened the lower floors of it, the great formal rooms that had only ever been used for funerals and false dinners, as the home of a foundation I built in my parents' names, the Edward and Catherine Whitmore Foundation. It supports young people who have lost their parents early, the way I lost mine, and who are growing up, as I grew up, in the quiet, at the edge of other people's families, being forgotten. We help them with school. We help them stand on their own. We help them, most of all, by simply seeing them, which is a thing no one did for me until a sharp old woman left me a key in a locked drawer. The house that was bought, in part, with my father's stolen future, now spends its days giving futures back to children who have had theirs taken. I think my grandmother would have liked that. I think my father would have liked it more. On the anniversary of the day the will was read, I drove out to the quiet place where my family is buried, my grandmother, and beside her, at last, in the plot she had kept empty for 20 years and never explained to anyone. My mother and my father, whose names had finally been cleared, and whose remembrance stone I had been able, at last, to place where it belonged, among their own family, where they had always deserved to rest. I sat on the bench nearby for a long time, in the clear, cool air, with the wind moving through the trees. I had one last recording to watch. Mr. Harding had given it to me weeks before, with a small, sad smile, and told me my grandmother had asked that I be given it on the anniversary of the will, and not before. I had carried it with me all morning. Now I took out the old scratch tablet, and I pressed the file, which was titled simply, "The Last One." My grandmother's face appeared, in the soft yellow light of her study. One final time. "Grace," she said, "if you are watching this, then a year has passed, and the worst of it is behind you. I will not ask whether you did the thing I hoped you would do, because I already know you did. You were always the only one of them I never had to wonder about." She smiled, very slightly. "I want to tell you something," she said, "that I never managed to say to your face, because I was a hard woman, and a coward in the ways that mattered most. And I kept you at a distance for years to keep you safe. And in doing so, I let you grow up believing you were not loved. That was my last and greatest failure. So let me say it now, even if I have to say it from the other side of everything. You were loved, Grace," she said. "You were always loved. From the moment you were born, by your father, who sang badly in cars, by your mother, who was the kindest person I ever met, and by me, the whole time, even in all my silence. You were never the person the room forgot. You were the person the room was not good enough to deserve. I am sorry it took me a will, and 30 days, and a safe behind a painting, to find a way to tell you so. Live in the light," she said. "Choose well, be kinder than I was, and do not, my darling girl, ever again let anyone make you believe that you are standing in the quiet because you do not matter. You were the one I trusted with everything. That has always been my way of saying I love you. Goodbye, Grace. Be happy. That is the whole inheritance." The recording ended. I sat on the bench for a long while, with the tablet in my lap, and the wind in the trees, and the three of them resting quietly nearby. Together at last. I did not feel forgotten. I had not felt forgotten in a year. I had inherited a house, and a company, and a great deal of money, and the world would say, if it knew my story, that those were the things my grandmother had left me. But the world would be wrong, the way it usually is. What she had left me was the truth, about my father, about my family, about myself. And the truth, it turns out, is the only inheritance that no one can ever forge, or steal, or take away on a rainy night on a dark and winding road. I stood up. At last, I touched the top of my grandmother's stone, and then my mother's, and then my father's. "I will see you next year," I told them. Then I walked back down the hill to my car, in the clear, bright afternoon, to drive home to a house full of light, and a cousin who had chosen me, and a foundation full of children who would never have to grow up believing that the quiet meant they did not matter. It was the life that had been stolen from my family before I was old enough to understand it, and I had taken every piece of it back. Not with rage, not with cruelty, just with patience, and the truth, and 30 days. Thank you for listening to today's story. If it moved you, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next story.